action. This October, she was re-elected with the highest number of votes. Born and raised in Burnaby, she's fought tirelessly for more affordable housing, for fair and equitable climate action, and for more traffic safety and transportation options. She's passionate about making politics more compassionate, kind, and caring. In 2017, she cycled from Ottawa to Burnaby to protest the Trans Mountain Pipeline and Tank Farm, which shows how far she'll go to fight for what's best for Burnaby's residents. In 2020, she was awarded top 25 under 25 environmentalists. And as well as English, she speaks Mandarin and French, just to make us all feel intimidated. Alison, we're so happy that you can be with us as our MC today.
Thanks so much, everybody. And thanks so much for having us. I think I can speak for everybody. Thank you for organizing this and bringing us all together. Personally, I am calling in from the unceded ancestral and traditional lands of the Hunkaminam and Squamish speaking peoples. Feel free to introduce yourselves, your names, if you feel comfortable, your pronouns, and what lands you're calling in from, in the chat. As we do that, I'll kind of explain why we're here today. The Climate Action Provincial Assembly, or CAPA, is an opportunity for climate activists and advocates across BC to connect, co-learn, coordinate, and build momentum. I think we can all agree that COVID has taken a lot of capacity out of organizing groups, but we need to build that capacity back up. And we hope the Assembly will provide the sense of hope and connection that is so needed in this moment, as well as the practical space to coordinate and do a little bit of scheming for what's next. So a bit of a breakdown on how today is going to happen. We are going to go through first a quick personal breakout group. So they're going to be random groups of 4 to 5. They're going to be 3 minutes each, and it's going to be self-facilitated. And the purpose of these breakout groups is essentially for everybody to share their personal story of why you are in the climate movement. And then we're going to go into kind of a slide presentation from Guy and Weekend about the campaigns and initiatives that are currently happening in BC. Sometimes it can feel like we're on the losing end of things, but there is a lot of good work happening. And if you feel so called to plug into some of those campaigns or get involved even further, I'm sure we are happy to make that happen. And there's going to be folks who can connect you today. And then we're going to segue into a climate action facilitated breakout group. So these are going to be self-selected. There are going to be a number of topics that I think we'll go through later on. And then we'll kind of do a quick lightning round report back. And then we're going to do a breakout group structured at making sure that we can meet our goals and help us meet our goals. And then there's a bit of time for feedback and ideas, and a bit more on how to connect with various groups. So with that, unless I'm missing anything, Mari, take it away.
Okay, thanks so much, Alison. So we're going to send you into groups of 4 or 5 people. Take a look at the clock, but you should have about 3 minutes to introduce yourself and say your story of why you're in the climate movement. See you soon.
All right, so we're just going to wait for everybody to get back into the room, and it looks like we're almost there. Thank you so much for everyone. I know that I've very much enjoyed my breakout group, and it was lovely to see where people are. Can we just make sure we are all muted? Thank you very much. So our next piece is going to be from Guy. It's going to be a presentation on the climate movement in BC. And then it's going to be pretty quick. It's going to be about 5 minutes. And then we're going to go into climate action facilitated breakout groups. So that'll be on topics that I'll go over after Guy's presentation.
Thanks, Alison. So let me play from the start. Sounds so good. So West Coast Climate Action Network. We were founded in January of last year. Our purpose is to serve, support, amplify, and promote the climate action work of our 241 member groups and organizations, and 95 climate action groups registered for today's meeting, people from 95 groups. We're all volunteers supported by one part-time paid network coordinator, Murray Pickett, our strength. We have 7 working teams: the CAPA team, the members team, Indigenous engagement team, local government team, communications, training, and fundraising. We publish the weekly weekend news, which we hope reaches every climate activist in BC. Supported by Weekend's work, 146 plus climate champions were elected to local councils and school boards in October of this year. We're stitching together an Indigenous climate action digital data quilt in a contract with Sharon Marshall from Creative Inc. and her Digital Divas, with young and Indigenous women. And we hold these climate action provincial assemblies every 3 or 4 months to build cooperation and mutual support in the movement. So what's happening in BC's climate movement? There are actions to fight fossil fuels, to stop the Coastal GasLink campaign up in the West Sowetan territory, to stop TMX, to stop fracking and LNG, to stop the Tilbury coal exports, to stop the financing going into fossil fuels, to stop the fossil fuel subsidies, to end fossil fuel advertising. Stand.earth is doing a campaign on yoga for coal-free Lulu fashion, to stop Lululemon burning coal to make its clothing, and there's campaigns for climate-safe pensions. There are initiatives on green buildings and to get natural gas out of buildings, to stop Fortis doing sort of propaganda in our schools, and to generally get awareness around the dangers of natural gas, that it is actually all fracked, it's as bad as coal, it's a fossil fuel, it needs to stop. There's a lot of stuff municipally with people tracking municipal actions in the local councils. There's a separate campaign that West Coast Environmental Law does to sue big oil. There's another campaign to get cities to sign on to the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty. There's a campaign to get a youth climate corps established nationally. There are community education programs like the one in Nanaimo called the Nanaimo Climate Pledge. Project Drawdown does, steady education around all the environmental solutions to climate. There are school and college initiatives. There's a campaign for our kids to get electric school buses, and the deadline for that for application for funds is the end of this month. There's enough money for every school board to get all of its buses being electric. There are lots of transportation initiatives around cycling and electric cars and car sharing and stuff at the local level. There's all the old growth forest campaigns. There's the campaign to stop the destruction of the northern boreal forest, trying to get into biomass to ship to a power plant in Britain. There are nature-based solution campaigns and programs. There are food and farming initiatives. The Sierra Club's got a big BC government climate accountability campaign. The BC Climate Emergency Campaign, I'll come to in a second. And there's a new sort of sense of initiative. How do we influence the new David Eby NDP? A lot of us got together and formed the BC Climate Emergency Campaign. A year ago, we put out a critique of the government's Clean BC planning, saying it wasn't really good enough. And this, just recently, this is the website, bcclimateemergency.ca. We all cooperate on this. It's got, close on 500 organizations have signed the big call for actions on 10 items. And we put out a report card just recently where we scored the government on these 10 actions. So, fail, 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 progress, progress, fail, progress, progress, fail, fail. So we went through all those different grades. So that's an ongoing thing where we're struggling to get traction to get the government finding that's all happening. So with that very brief introduction, we're going to go into these 8 breakout groups, and you choose the group you want. Mari will explain how that happens. One on the politics of pressing the new NDP government, one on food security, one on stopping fossil fuel extraction projects from Coastal GasLink to TMX, one on getting natural gas out of buildings, one on old growth forests, one on municipal climate action, one on transportation, and one on group capacity building for your own climate action groups. I'll hand it back to Mari.
Alison, do you want to jump in here, or would you like me to?
Yeah, sure. So I'll just quickly explain what the climate action facilitated breakout groups will kind of look like. So obviously, would it be possible to bring up that last slide again, just so people can see very clearly what their choices are?
Yes. You carry on talking while I'm finding it again.
So everybody is going to choose their own adventure, and you'll get to think about kind of the topics that the breakout group is focused on, and how to take action, how to get involved in whatever work is already happening there. You'll have a facilitator who kind of will be able to not just give an example and overview of the current work that's happening, but there's also, from my knowledge of some of the folks, they'll also be able to answer, technical questions about, like, why is this important? How does this play into climate change and climate action, et cetera? What are the most effective ways to leverage our power, and all of that? And then, you're going to have, again, another quick introduction from everybody within the group. We're not going to take 3 minutes this time. It's going to be, 15 to 30 seconds each. Each group is going to have a note taker, and we're going to do an overview of the current climate initiatives, and then a discussion on how we can work together and support each other, and do a bit of brainstorming and scheming about ways to leverage our power. There's going to be you're going to come back with a group agreement. So on this group agreement, you're going to decide on 1 or 2 hard asks for the lightning round. And the lightning round is when essentially a very, very, very quick report back. So ideally we want 1 hard ask action item for the group to hear. And you're also going to decide on how you move this work forward. So are you going to have a follow-up meeting? Are people going to get plugged directly into the campaign if there's a campaign happening? How are you going to keep moving this forward and keep building on the good work that is already happening? So if that was, I'm going to summarize that all quickly again. So your facilitator is going to re-explain this process, but then we're going to go intros, overview of current climate initiatives, a discussion on how we can work together, and then a group agreement on a hard ask of how we build on this work, and bring that ask back to the group. And each breakout group will be about 30 minutes, and your facilitator will be able to tell you how much time we have for each smaller section. So make sure you, identify your facilitator. Your facilitator will be there. Identify a note taker if you haven't already, and let's get into our groups. Okay, all right. How did that go for everyone? I know my group was a little bit rushed to finish up. We just had a lot of folks doing a lot of really good work, and so our intros took a little bit longer. But I guess I'll start with our lightning round report bank. We are going to start. We've collected each other's emails, and I'm going to send out topics to each person on ways that they can push their municipality to do good climate work. They will then go and do research on whether their municipality has done anything in that realm and tailor that topic specific to their municipality to ensure the most likelihood of success, as well as we talked about best practices for pushing councils on supporting climate champions by showing the other not so climate champions that climate is a really important issue to the rest of the community by mobilizing and building a group to work towards advocating those things. And I don't have a list of the, oh wait, I do have a list of the groups. So maybe I'll ask Ashley to report back very quickly on pressing the new NDP EV government.
My goodness, that was so fast. We had a lot of people there and we did not get through the whole conversation, nor did I get a really concrete list for report back in terms of calls to action, because it was not, we needed more time. So we are going to try to meet again and we collected emails to do that, and anyone who wants to join that should definitely let the organizers know, because that was not enough time. There's a lot of really good things happening, and I'm sorry, we don't have a concrete list of calls to action, but Doug had a good one. So go ahead, Doug, on my behalf, take my time.
Thank you, Ashley. I don't know how many people have read the Integrity Matters report from the high-level expert group on net zero emissions commitment from the UN, chaired by Anne McClellan, released from COP27. It's a black and white set of principles and practices that governments and regulators should apply. It applies to all non-state actors in the area of carbon emissions. And if those rules became the rules of the game on the planet, it would be game-changing and might actually be worth doing and save us. And I would like to think that the 141 or 241 groups that loosely make up We Can could collectively endorse that and say that our several 100,000 joint membership people in BC agree with that, and then press all levels of government, municipal, provincial, and federal, to adopt that framework and run with it.
Could you tell us the name of the report again?
It's titled Integrity Matters. And it has a full name. Just let me pop it up on
Somebody put it in the chat.
There's a link.
I've put it in already. Integrity Matters, net zero commitments by businesses, financial institutions, cities, and regions. Report from the United Nations high-level expert group on the net zero emissions commitments of non-state entities. Like, it's not hard to find on the internet. But it's really like there's 10 recommendations. They're black and white. They're things like everybody needs a target. You have to report on your progress. There have to be absolute reductions in emissions. There's no offsets. It has to be transparent. You have to have third-party auditing. There will be regulation. There will be enforcement. Like, it's like, just like, do it, people. It's a good report. Of course, that means it won't happen. But if we all say we want this and get all our groups aligned to say this is the way the world needs to go, I think that might be a good idea. Anyway, that was my whole reason for coming today.
Sorry. Stephen, do you have a response, or are you putting your hand up to report back?
Yeah, no, just very quickly on this, and Douglas, I expect that this is the way to go. At the same time, since we haven't read the report and since we will be meeting again, I think it would be better to read the report and bring it back to our groups and make sure that we can sign on to this. So I don't see any problem, and I seem to be sort of countering the idea of let's get it done, but I don't mean to be doing that. It's just a word of caution.
For sure. Okay, great. Heather Pritchard, are you able to report back for food security? If not, we'll go to
She said she was going to. She may be muted.
Okay. Heather?
I did unmute, but then when I do it too fast, it goes back again. Sorry.
No worries.
I do that all the time. Yeah, so our group looked at food security in light of relocalizing our food system, in decommoditizing our land and food production. And we didn't get to one action that we thought that we could take. But we did collect everybody's emails. Many of the participants were from Vancouver Island, so they had something in common there. And to take a look at the BC provincial government changes and see, and to make sure the new ministry was in line with these, with our values, and look at what policies might be addressed in order to in order to make in order to localize our food system, I guess we'd say. I think that the group, we were small, so we should have had lots of time. But we spent a lot of time talking about what we were doing ourselves and what we thought needed to be done, and didn't spend the time at the end to actually focus on one thing.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Heather. Alison Bodine and Decolonial. Alison Bodine, are you here?
Yeah, all good.
Okay.
So the group about stopping oil and gas and standing in solidarity with Indigenous rights and sovereignty. Thanks to everyone that joined the group. We also had the same plaguing problem of too long of introductions, hearing about great work, not enough time for discussion, but did come to the conclusion we'd like to ask and encourage everyone to join in the Adopt a Branch or Protesting MLA Offices campaign of Decolonial Solidarity. I'm going to post in the chat Decolonial Solidarity Vancouver, who's organizing the actions here, is offered to kind of help anyone outside of the Lower Mainland also key into the campaign, figure out what it means. And so there'll be information in the chat of how you can get in touch with them if this sounds like something you want to get involved with. Basically, the crux of what we were talking about was COP27. Canada didn't sign on to the agreement to include a phase out of oil and gas, for example. Oil and gas is a very important part of Canada's economy, and Canada continues to have the largest greenhouse gas imprint per capita of any country in the world. So this is important to any environmental movement, and it goes hand in hand with our struggle for Indigenous rights and sovereignty. So support the Decolonial Solidarity campaign, get involved with that. But also, we really just barely started a conversation about how we can bring that larger question of oil and gas and what we want to demand MLAs, the government, to do, and coming up with some united actions or language around that. So I hope we can all be in better touch. And our concrete ask again is to get involved in the Adopt a Branch campaign against the Coastal GasLink pipeline if you're not already.
Thank you so much, Alison. Okay, so hearing everybody's feedback, your facilitators and WeCan folks have been frantically chatting in the background. We are going to actually send people back to their climate action groups, because it sounds like people did not have enough time to actually get a good idea of how we move forward. And we want people to come away with a really clear way to get your groups going forward. So we are going to go back to those groups, make sure that we also give feedback on how we can support the work that your group wants to do. If your group did already get a clear ask, make sure that that is reflected in your notes, and then feel free to join another group that you're interested in. Biggest things are, let's make sure that we have clear asks on how to move this work forward in the topic that you're in. You include in your minutes that you what kind of feedback you have for WeCan on how they can help support the work that your groups are going. And then we're going to come back at 11:50. And yeah, so join on if you felt like your group was able to close very well and get a good way forward, feel free to join another group. And tech folks, if you're able to send us back, or
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mari and WeCan folks, for allowing us to go back into those breakout sessions. I know that my group got a lot more covered, and I personally feel really good about all of the recommendations that were put together on that. Maybe what we can do is skip the report back because we've got all the Google Docs, and maybe we can ask all of our minute takers to put the link to their Google Doc in the chat right now. And then people can browse as per their ability. And then I will open up the floor to open feedback and ideas. So whether this is something that you think came up in your group that will apply to everybody, or it's feedback for weekend on specific recommendations, I'll open up the floor for that now. Bill.
I would we are focusing, like you mentioned in an earlier report, on municipal councils, and we have new teams, and as Guy said in the outset, lots of climate champions involved. Our focus was old growth, but as you talked about how we would do this with resolutions going forward to protect old growth, and then we said we could amp this up to municipalities, municipal councils across the province. It occurred to me that this is worth looking at for every one of the different breakout groups, because the timing is good. Regional regional municipal groupings, like we have one for Vancouver Island and coastal communities. I believe there are similar ones for all parts of the province, and the timetable is usually around February for resolutions to be received, and April is their meeting. And then that feeds the larger umbrella organization in October. So I think I just throw that out there for everybody to consider, because the time's ripe.
Absolutely. Thanks, Bill. Guy?
Yes, very briefly. We also really need feedback on, are we doing a good job with the CAPA? Is there a better way to handle it? Do you have ideas for how frequent we should hold the CAPA and stuff like that? And maybe we'll put together a survey afterwards to find out. But if you get a survey, please answer it. Please answer it. Thanks.
Yes. Thanks, Guy. Jeanette?
Yes, our group, actually, when we were asked for feedback for we said, like, it's really, really good the number of organizations that we has got involved, and the presentation Guy did with all the different ways that people are working together. What's really good about today's meeting is it gave a chance for those of us in different areas to come together to see how we can work horizontally, so to see where we're actually wanting the same goals, and so that where we can put that energy together. And one of the things Ashley suggested was, if people really can focus on, well, what kind of legislation do we need actually to do these things, rather than individually going knocking on MLA doors and say, do this, do this, do this. So I think this is a great step forward, Guy, and whatever can be done to follow through from this to give that kind of communication. We set up, like, we put in email addresses. Okay, enough from me.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeanette. Chris? Chris, you're on mute if you're trying to talk right now.
I was about to say that we didn't have enough time to discuss things, honestly. Yeah, exactly what the previous speaker said, honestly. Again, it has to be the main strategy we have to focus on primarily is a tactic of both, inside the institution itself and putting pressure on the outside as best as we can. So yeah, we have to hash that out.
Absolutely. That's a really, really great framework to think about all kind of climate organizing at every single level. Eric?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that in the transportation group, we had a lot to talk about, but in some ways it was easy because we've already got the Climate Emergency Coalition 10 points, 0.8 on transportation to start from, and the report card. So, and just also to announce that that I'm going to be heading up a working group as part of the climate emergency campaign on transportation. So anybody who's interested, just get in touch. I'll put my email in the chat.
Great, thanks, Eric. Gisela?
Point for groups like ours who choose not to forward the weekend newsletter. And I know that I would love us to do it, but it doesn't actually fit our mandate very well, which is extremely local action, and most of the weekend is provincial. So, but what I can suggest that other groups who are in that situation can do is make a feature story now and then about weekend and just encourage people to sign up to the newsletter independently. I know we would get a lot of unsubscribes if we forwarded each and every newsletter, as that's just the way that it is. So I am going to continue to encourage people to sign up as individuals directly to Weekend's newsletter. So it might be something else that works for other people who, for whatever reason, choose not to forward the newsletter directly to their subscribers.
Okay, great. William?
Oops. Yeah, I guess each of us have something we want to get across on this. And here, my message is, why aren't we talking about exporting our emissions? 950 million tons of CO2 are exported every year, and primarily through oil and gas. We always talk about our own emissions that we create within our boundaries, but we don't talk about the exporting of our emissions. BC has a responsibility here because we're the gateway. We're the pipeline that's going to be exporting a fair amount of those emissions. So, as I say, each of us have our a little message to deliver today. And that particular one is one I think that's being ignored by Canada. And I think it's time to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, William. I want to quickly summarize what some of the conversation that's happened in the chat. So Weekend is going to compile a document that has links to all of the notes from the other breakout groups. Hopefully, I'm going to put this out there. If you have the resources, I'm sure a lot of these minutes are a little bit all over the place just because discussion happened, a little bit, popcorn style. If there is a way that we could summarize each of those minutes into much more compiled. Awesome. Mari's giving me a thumbs up. They're going to be summarized. Please do check out the links to each group when you get that email from Weekend. From my group specifically, there was also a sharing of emails, and I committed to sharing a number of resources on a bullet form notes on how to be more effective in lobbying your local governments, and on kind of tips and tricks on topics that municipalities have control over. So I'm able to send that, and I'll get Weekend to share that with maybe within our minute notes. And I'm sure that we can, if you have anything else, resources that you want to share, Weekend is a resource for you. If you want to get plugged into a group that is already doing work and who just, needs more organizers and boots on the ground, then please do reach out to the various organizations that we met today. And if you don't know where to go, email Weekend, and I'm sure they can also put you in touch. And I'll hand it off to Guy.
So thanks. I'm going to jump in here because Alison has to leave bang on 12, which is bang on 12 right now. And I want to say thank you. Thank you so much. If you all, if you go to View Gallery in the top right-hand corner, and use the reactions buttons and clap your hands. Let's unmute everyone, Murray, and so we can all say thank you to Alison. Give us a big unmute, make a big noise.
Thank you.
Alison.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you, Maury.
Now mute everyone else. We haven't finished yet. We haven't finished yet. Just round.
You'll have to unmute again, Guy.
If you can just bear with me, I've got a little wrap up thing here. So if your group or organization is not already a member of WeCan, please, there's an application form on our website. You can join 3 members, an expression of concern around the climate crisis. Number 2, if you want to join one of our working teams, we have a team developing the CAPA, team on local government action, team on communications, social media, website, newsletter, our members team for developing member groups, Indigenous engagement team, fundraising team, and the training team. Send an email to Mari at westcoastclimateaction.ca. Number 3, yes, we can, but we need your help to do it. We do need financial support. If you can chip in to help us financially, that would be fabulous. If you go to our website, there's a button called Donate, and we will be launching a big appeal soon, but we have to pay Mari, and without Mari's work, we can't sustain all the voluntary pieces that are going on, because it takes that. So finally, UN Climate Chief Antonio Guterres said at the COP summit, said, we are on highway to climate hell with our foot still on the accelerator. Expect resistance. We want to stop that. So there's no planet B. This is a game we're all in. Huge commitment from all of the climate activists. I know that. The First Nations, the indigenous groups like Grand Chief Stuart Phillip, are really right on the front lines, absolutely, as strongly as ever. The young people, this is from COP20, from COP26, are right on the front lines as well. So our response is, we're on the bike path to rapid climate action, and we're going to divert all the traffic. And this is where we're going. And with that, I want to say, keep up the great work, everyone. And thanks for being with us. And we'll see you at the next CAPA in the new year. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll play us a song to head out.
Give us
Thanks,
some
everyone.
music. Say, play us out. Yeah. You're muted, Mari, so we're not hearing it. Maybe that's the thing.